Mrs. Green Apple, it's time to listen to the last track in our track-by-track listen through to the debut full-length album from the band. It's called 12, and the song is called Shokuniota? Shokuniota. Okay. I got to be honest, this has been a really interesting listen, and as with a lot of these, I'm thinking at some point I'm going to do a final video to give my full thoughts on the album. And yes, after we finish with this album in a few moments, the next one we're going to be moving on to will be the next album, which I think is the self-entitled album. But, you know, I always feel like when we get to the end of an album, for me, an album is kind of like a movie. It's like a story of its own. It tells you the tale of a certain creative point in an artist's life. And so when this finishes, we'll be leaving this era behind. And even if we're only moving forward 1 year, we'll be moving away from 12 and moving further into the future. So, yeah, I'm kind of like, this has been lovely. I've enjoyed this album. And like I said, I've got a lot of thoughts about it because it definitely does feel like a first album, but in a very unusually Mrs. Green Apple way. But here we are listening to the final track. Now, this is interesting because, as mentioned, I don't just listen to the songs and review them in their own context, but I also review them in context of how they feel in the album. As I say, to me, an album is as much a collection of songs. Well, it is as much a journey of its own as it is a collection of songs. And so, like with a movie, the ending is very important. Now, the penultimate song, the one that led us up to this, was Hello, which I'm thinking is probably one of my favourite songs on the album. At least it definitely has this feeling like it's just like a big, glorious single. It's a sing-along song, but it ends on a slightly more chilled note. It just sort of like tapers off a little bit at the end and gives you a nice final chilled ending that might be leading us into something interesting. So no idea, is Shokuniota going to be a chilled out ending to the album, or are we going to go out on a blast akin to Hello? I always love that relationship between the penultimate and final song on any album. It always makes an interesting thing to think about. So let's see what Shokuniota got for us to end off the 12 album. I like that. Oh, okay. It's so jolly and over the top. Loving that mandolin in the background there. This is using that 3-count swing rhythm really heavily. 私の仕事は素材になること全てになんかなれずに一部になることどうかずっとこの The bouncing between the guitars. That's so cool. 今日もいつものように Good morning, good night, love you, say goodbye 離れない This is so jolly. 明日へと恋願う歌 Happy the life は素晴らしい 始まったばかりだ Again, it's like now the piano's taking more of a central role. Just threading different little instrumental lines over the framework of this super swingy beat. When you know the drop is coming, it's so satisfying. Alright, bridge, come on, bridge can make or break a song. Okay, 2 chords. That's nice, build up the tension. There we go. Oh, okay, now we're getting it up. That's nice, I like that. Good morning, good night, love you to goodbye. That's a really well executed bridge. Simple but effective. Ah! Keychain! It wouldn't be an anthem without Keychain. Fantastic. That's so well executed. Alright. You got 30 seconds. Wrap the album up. Wrap the album up. Nice. We're gonna go out. We're gonna go out all guns blazing. Oh, that's so satisfying. That's so. Do you know what, as well? What I really like about that ending is it's so in keeping with the entire vibe of the song up until that point. Yeah, so straight away, swing rhythm, kind of playful. What's the name of that kind of whistle flute? There's a name for that specific type of flute, but that in there, it kind of has a jolly, almost to the point of parody sound when it starts, which is like, it's so ludicrously jolly, and with the little whistle and the little dancing, swinging rhythm, it feels almost like parody at first. But what is really nice is that, and this is something which I think is very much true of a lot of Omori's writing, is that the premise is established, and assuming that that's the premise that the entire song's going to stick to, he really leans into it. It's never like, oh, I'm going to do something a bit cheeky here. It's like, no, this song is going to be silly, over the top, fun. It's going to have a kind of parody-esque vibe, but we're going to lean into it and we're going to make the song really take on that life, take on that feeling. And this is great. I mean, like, the song really, everything's stamping on that swing rhythm, bass, bouncing along on that note rhythm. The piano and everything is beautifully, I mean, I've said this before, so many songs are on the 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 kind of rhythm. That's the main rhythm that most contemporary music's on. That when you have a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, when you have something a bit like that, it gives you so much interesting room to write rhythms and bouncy things into the instrumentation that are not unheard of, but are less commonplace. And I really feel like all the instrumentation here is just, every few seconds you're hearing a different little line from the guitars. The bit where they're bouncing backwards and forwards and left and right headphone, which is again a common Mrs. Green Apple trick, but works so well on this rhythm. The piano comes in, takes lead, does a little bit of an interesting kind of rhythm there. It's all about these little moments where one instrument or another takes advantage of the central premise, that kind of fun swinging rhythm. And all whilst at the same time, the song maintains this jolly kind of skipping through the fields kind of vibe. But at the same time, it sounds big. All of these instruments together, it sounds big. It has a carnival vibe. This is all kind of obvious stuff, I know, but it's just the way that it's executed so well that I really like. And a good example of that is the bridge. And, I know I go on about bridges, but I want to point this out because the bridge on surface just looks like just sounds like it's just like a flute solo. But what's really interesting is the chord pattern underneath. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that the chords are kind of doing this throughout the song, but I just wanted to sort of pinpoint that moment, because this is the moment where, when a solo comes in, you can kind of do anything, but you really get to, people focus a lot on what the solo is, whether it be a guitar solo or whatever. But when you focus on the chords underneath, that's as much a part of any solo, because it kind of shows you how underneath that thing that you're paying attention to, the real mood of the song is being adjusted. And what this did, let me see if I can just pick out this moment and play it to you so you can get what I mean. All right, so the chords basically go through a couple of stages. First of all, we have a chord goes back and da, da, da. And this is something that you do sometimes in a bridge when you're kind of like going back and forth between chord, back and forth between a chord, and back and forth. And what you're doing is you're kind of building up a tension, because the listener knows, okay, we're going backwards and forth. It's almost like you're preparing for something to come in. And then it goes down and then builds back up. And that's kind of nice. It's like you've gone back and forth, and then down. So you're like, oh, okay, but it's still, we're not sort of raising up to the triumphant sound yet. We're actually stepping back and then punch forwards. That's fine. That's pretty normal. But then what it does after that is it then tries to repeat that, but rather than doing the exact same thing again, he then goes up to a chord, but it's a slightly unsettled chord. It's like a key change. It's like, oh, okay, listen, now we're going higher, but we've gone up to a chord that doesn't feel resolved. It feels a little bit off with the rest of the song. And then he works back down again and then builds up a second time, but this time builds up and then punches into the chorus, so everything finally resolves and feels triumphant. This is so simple, but it really well executed if you're listening for it. Let's have a little listen to this now. So we're going backwards and forwards, building up the tension, but then we go down, then back up, and you're thinking, oh, resolve, but then slightly odd chord, and we're coming back down again. And then back up. This time, we're building up to the final triumphant resolution. So that entire period is all about bringing you around to that chord, and when you eventually land on it, it feels right. And what? So we get into that. What? 257 is when it resolves. When does it start? So that's a period of about 30 seconds. It's pretty long if you think of it. If you just sit there in silence and count 30 seconds to yourself, that's quite a long period of time. 30 seconds that is all about resolving around to one chord. You get all of that. All of that is about building around to one chord, and so that's the entire journey between the second and the final chorus is all that. And you're not at any point allowed to feel like everything's resolved. You're kept waiting for it. When's it going to resolve? When it's going to resolve? And then 30 seconds later, it resolves with the final chorus. That's how to execute a bridge. It's a very simple example of how to execute a bridge, but this song is about doing simple things right. And for me, I love that. I love that. It's a textbook example, but textbook is not bad. Textbook is not bad if you deliver it with style, with genuine like quality, and it fits with the song. And for me, yeah, I really enjoyed the way this whole song works its way around to the ending, and then the crescendo felt rewarding. The chorus was great. Do you know what? Recency bias is a thing, but at the moment, my brain is telling me that the last two songs on this album are kind of my favorite. So I'm going to have to go back. Now I've finished my track by track listen through, I'm going to have to go back and, as I usually do, have several full listens without pause to the entire album, and then maybe come back and give my final thoughts at some point. But I've kind of been saying this about a few of the albums. I might actually leave it till I've listened to all of them and then just kind of give retrospectives on all the albums individually once I've had a chance to live with them. Maybe even rank them or something. But this was great. I really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed this whole album, but God, it ends on a flourish. It ends on a flip. This album, do you know what? This album, I think at points at the beginning, it felt a little bit like it was finding its feet. It ended with a punch. Really great stuff. Anyway, there you go. As always, those are my thoughts. Get in the comments. Tell me what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.